Hello and welcome to this episode of the Reset Podcast. I'm your host, Lauren Mignot. This is part of my 29 Days of Magic series where I get to interview 29 phenomenal Black women across a whole variety of industries and spectrums, and it is an absolute delight. And today, I have Chella Rice, who's a client partner and business lead, chatting with me today. She's got an awesome story, and I cannot wait for you all to hear all about it. So let's dive right on in. Hi, Chella. Good to see you.
For the opportunity.
You cut out there. Say it again.
I said, so glad to be here and thank you so much for the opportunity.
Splendid. I'm so glad to have you. So first question is always awesome. Answer is always amazing. Sure, yours will be no different. So Chella, what's your all-time favorite job?
All-time favorite job is when I did a social cause campaign for pediatric cancer. It was just a very rewarding and enriching campaign to be a part of. I got to work with some great people, do a lot of first things for my company, and just do it for a wonderful cause.
Oh, wow, awesome. Like that whenever you get a chance to do something where you can help others as part of your daily job, it always is just like the big heart warmer and it feels really good. And you're like, yeah, like, all right, this feels good. So I'm glad to hear that. So, all right, so we talked about the thing that kind of warmed your heart and did all the good stuff. How are we going to be having this conversation right now? What's the career journey that got us to be sitting here today?
Wonderful mentor who has been really encouraging me to step out of my box, be more celebratory about my accomplishments. I have a tendency to kind of get things done and keep my head down and keep trucking. And so she's really encouraged me to step out, be bold, take some risk, and put myself out there. So it led me to meet with you, Laura.
Awesome. All right. So how does one become like a business lead client partner? That sounds like you've worked in the advertising industry. I think I would guess
Yes.
right.
Yes, you get that role when you work a lot of long nights, and you build trust with clients essentially. So the way I see my role is I am an extension of the client team. So I work really closely with them to understand not just their business and like the brief at hand, but their long-term goals and objectives and how we can navigate with them along that journey. So lots of pivots, lots of ambiguity, but I love it because when I graduated from school many, many moons ago, it was always my goal to work for an organization that created opportunities for individuals and benefited our economy. And so working in an ad industry gives me the opportunity to do that because I can work with different clients from different um, areas and help them reach their goals, ultimately, helping the economy and providing opportunities for other individuals.
I love that. And I love that way of explaining this because I think, folks don't understand the advertising industry is massive and has many, many, many different parts. And the thing I always talk to whenever I'm speaking to younger people that there's so many ways that you can work in advertising. You don't have to be someone who knows how to draw. You don't have to be someone who knows how to design something in Photoshop. There are some plethora of amazing roles that can tie into your really good skills. And so one of those being like helping clients kind of see the way, and allowing and then building something that you can actually see has a real impact. Like when you have a commercial on TV, that's the thing you talked about in those meetings is now on TV, which is
Yes.
pretty amazing. And you're like, look,
Yeah, it
I
is
worked
pretty
on
cool.
that. So that's a big part about why, obviously it's my also chosen career as well because it's you never know what you're gonna get and it's always something interesting and unique. And so for you and in your journey, have you always been on the agency side or did you sort of fall into it by accident like most people did?
No, I started off on the client side, and at that time, I was just looking at my CMOs and different leaders within the organization, and they all had advertising background where they had worked in an agency. And so I thought if I'm gonna be, an executive on the client side, I need to get some agency experience. So I took the leap and jumped over to what they call the dark side. And then I loved it. I really enjoyed the variety that an agency provides because you cannot, like I said before, you're not just working with like one client or one brand. You have the opportunity to learn about so many different industries and really like understand their interworkings. And so once I came over, I've just been here and I really like it. I actually feel like I'm one of those individuals that can say I really love my job.
Oh, that's awesome. And also, it's not the dark side. It's just the other side. It's just the other side. Like we know that, like it's a little different. And I think one of the things that's kind of really important for folks to understand is that, like, again, you can do both. You can go from brand to agency. You can go from agency to brand, or you can do agency brand back to agency. And like I have friends who've done all manner of the universe that you can play in. But the cool thing about it is that, like, it's always changing, it's always unique, there's always something happening. And you're always finding interesting ways to sort of kind of pivot and help yourself and help figure very unique and complex problems out through storytelling ultimately. So for you, what do you think was like your sort of moment of reset where you're like, yeah, I've done this, but I want to make this kind of change?
A moment of reset for me would be when I saw the way the landscape was changing. So recently, I've started to focus more on transformation initiatives. And the reason for that is the world is super dynamic. The one thing that is constant is actually change. So once I really kind of embraced that, like, nothing is guaranteed in life, that was a big reset for me. And so I started really looking at different projects and opportunities where I could focus on transformation efforts, whether that is upskilling talent, introducing new technology like AI, automation tools, things of that nature, just so that we are evolving with the changes, like times are changing. So that's really was that kind of pivotal moment for me when I decided that being on the agency side was giving me the flexibility in order to do that.
Awesome. And then for you, talk to me about a time where you're like, I have this challenge, and just like, no way, I want to figure it out. And then you did.
I have a challenge and there's no way I'm going to figure it out. I've been there a couple of times. I would say one good example is when I didn't have a team. I was working pretty autonomously and work was just continuing to pile up. And so I had to get super creative about how to get things done without creating excuses. And then I learned the power of influence and the ability to say, I need help, which is, it seems so simple, but when you're working and your head's down, sometimes feeling like you need to say you need help is very daunting and it can feel defeating. Like, but what I was able to say is like, there's a power of influence out here, and there's also some vulnerability and strength in being able to say, I need help. And so, through me being able to do that, I was able to get support from individuals who weren't necessarily like my direct reports or weren't within the same team I was in, but they could see the vision of what I was trying to accomplish and they could see that I was working really hard. And so that was really just a point where I was like, if I can do that, I can do almost anything, if I just put my mind to it and think about my network around me and not be afraid to raise my hand.
So important, because I think very often, especially as Black women, we're trying to do things like we think we're superwoman, and we came from the planet Krypton, and so we can just keep on carrying more and more and more stuff. And like, no, we're from Earth. So we have to ask for help. It's not a sign of weakness to ask for help. It's actually a sign of strength to be like, look, yo, drowning, hello. Please help. But hopefully before you get to the drowning stage, you're like, listen, I'm seeing this, there's a lot going on. having some additional support would be super helpful right now, and I really would appreciate if someone could please help me. Like that is like, and it takes a lot of vulnerability, and I think very often it's scary to folks to be like, well, let me be this vulnerable to say I actually do need help, I actually do need support. And we have to sort of get folks to feel more comfortable saying, yeah, no, that it's not a sign of weakness, it is 110%. How strong it is to be like, listen, like I can't do everything, and I need some assistance. Like what we're going to get to at the end of the line is going to be spectacular, but if I don't get this help here, we're never going to get there. And it's such an important lesson that I'm so glad that you did a hand raising, like, yep, need that. And what was the response? I'm guessing it was good, right?
Yes, it was good. So maybe, because it was positive, it encouraged me and let me know like that's exactly what needs to happen. So yes.
And it's good because like I think we get so tied up in a lot of these things that when we're working on, like, how do I do all this, how is this all going to come together? And it is a team effort. It is not a solitary sport, especially in our industry of advertising. Like, it takes a big ass crew of people to make this all thing. Like, it's all wonderful when it's at the end, but like the road to get there is a yellow brick road with lots of steps and nooks and crannies and trip hazards along the way, and that's why you need folks to kind of help you get through it. And kind of looking back now on all the really awesome things that you've been able to achieve and the programs you've been able to launch and the impact you've been able to have, what do you think you'd tell 18-year-old Chella?
I would tell 18-year-old Chella to be kind. I feel like kindness goes a long way. When I was coming up, the feeling was that you should be direct and that you should be um, clear on like what you're asking for. And I think both of those things are really important, but there's a way that you can do things. And I've now coined, you catch more, what is it? Flies with honey or bees with honey? What's the
Of
phrase?
course, yes.
And
Way
so
more honey.
I try and be really nice, and I reread some of my notes and just sprinkle a little sugar on it and just make sure that people understand, like when I'm writing things, that you get the positive intent. What you lose in communication sometimes, often with email or with text messages now, because people are moving so fast, is they don't know the voice or the tone that you're conveying. And so it's really important to make sure that any emoji or joke that you can put in there is really helpful so that people understand, like, while I'm writing this note, I'm smiling. Yes, I'm being direct, I'm being very clear, but it's not from a place of negativity. It's in a place of like collaboration or being helpful. So that's something that I wish my 18-year-old self would have known, because often I was being very direct and professional and to the point, even though inside I thought I was coming from a nice place. But you never know what tone someone is putting on your emails or messages when they read them. So that would be one course correction I would give myself.
Wow, that's the reverse. Normally, when you're younger, the emails are like light and breezy and like, not all that serious. But you were writing the per my last email when you were like 18.
Yes.
So I call that a prodigy, personally speaking, because I too have. Well, my journey of that was that my first job out of college, I was the admin to a former big executive at Revlon who had her own consulting firm, and she didn't like typing, so I wrote all her emails. So she would dictate the emails to me to write. So I learned at a very young age how to write the appropriate email that might be construed as "fu," but it didn't have any of that language in there because it just was like for my last email, and my response was, and so I got very good at writing that very professional, stern, direct email. And the one thing I've learned as I've gotten older is I now have a balance. Like when you get that email from me, run. Because like you've done pissed me off. But you'll usually get, hi everybody. Like that's my usual everyday emails. Um, to kind of make it more, make everybody feel warm and fuzzy, because again, like you're so right about, like, everyone's busy. And I remember one time someone wrote me an email all in caps, and I called them. I was like, "Excuse me, what is the issue here?" And they're like, "Why?" I was like, "You sent me an all caps email." I was like, "Oh my god, I didn't even realize I had sent that." I'm not, there's no issue. I was like, "All right, cool," because all caps emails indicate a bit of anger or heatedness is coming across here. Um, so it is really important. And honestly, I think your advice is spot on, because I know I follow the same rule. Just be kind. It's so much easier to be kind than it is to be cruel. And again, it doesn't mean you have to be everyone's bestie, but like, oh, your shoe's untied. Like, oh, hey, like you got something here. Like, it's not that complicated. And I, have built my entire career on that same idea of just like, takes nothing to be kind, and be good to people. Doesn't mean you have to be a saint, because we're human and we're all going to make mistakes. But the more you can be good to folks, the better off the whole world is just going to be, because there's so much not kindness in the world. So when you encounter someone to just be kind, goes a long way. You never know how much that will brighten someone's day, just by like a smile, a little kind of little friendly banter, goes in mountains and mountains away.
Yes, 100%. And you never know what someone is dealing with in their personal lives. Like we spend so much time at work with those individuals. And so you just don't know what's happening outside of the laptop, that square box that we're in. So I always try to be empathetic and sensitive to that. That while things may be happening one way at the office, you don't know what's happening outside the office. So just extend, that kindness.
Easy, but like so often people do not do this, and you're like, could you? Why?
Yeah.
Like, and I always think that like part of the reason my success, and I would, and based on how you came to me, same idea, that like when you are good and kind to people, it opens up so many other doors that you haven't thought about, or even, because people remember how good you made them feel. And
Hmm.
that is literally, especially in our business, it's a relationship-based business. And if someone can send a text and be like, "Hey, talk to this person," and they're like, "Yep, cool, great." If it comes from you, I know that person's wonderful. Yeah, I'll hire that person because you said that person's great. Like, and that all comes from building a relationship. Of like, people know that like they want to work with good people, they want to vibe with good people. Like, life's too short to be like under so many like icky relationships in business. Like, no, if you don't want to be fun, I don't want to do it, because it's not worth it to me.
100%.
And so for you, looking back on all the kind of really awesome things you've done and the moment you're kind of in right now, what would you say is one thing you're really grateful for?
I'm really grateful that I have people around me who believe in me and who push me. I not just like my work colleagues, but like my network outside of work. They're very supportive and encouraging me. Like I am enough, and what I bring to the table is enough. And with so many societal pressures, with social media and people projecting what they think is acceptable, I think it can at times be very overwhelming. But I have a village around me that, encourages me and lifts me up. And I'm really thankful for that. I wouldn't be where I am today if I didn't have that group of people as my cheerleaders and giving me advice and pushing me in different directions. So that's what I'm most appreciative of.
Awesome. It takes a village. Anyone who tells you I did this all alone, lying. Cause like, no, D- you didn't wake up this morning and be like, yeah, I can just rule the world. Literally, no. It's
No,
just,
you can't. There's no I in team. I know that's so cliche, but it's so true. And you need that team, and you need that in that group of there is I in village, but
yeah, and the village can be, and the village is cool because like it can be this close village of like family, this other village of friends, and then these other ones that sort of build as part of it. And it's always sort of really nice concentric circles of groups of people who are like, we're rooting for you, not like Tyra, but we're really rooting for you.
Gosh. Yes.
Because
um,
that kind of rooting for you doesn't really work. but but, it's so very impactful to have that kind of cheerleading squad who folks are who like no speak your name in rooms when you're not there, and it matters. Like I don't care what anyone says, it absolutely matters. Like I wouldn't have been be able to get the rooms I've gotten into if folks hadn't tapped me on the shoulder and like, oh hey, yeah, I just told them you're good, good. And I'm sure the same thing goes for you as well. So, last question for you. Do you have a give and or an ask of the audience? And that can be anything like, hey, is there a cool book I read? Or, hey, here's a cool nonprofit I'm supporting. Like, whatever you want, do.
um, so a good book that I recently recommended to my village is The Year of Yes by Shonda Rhimes. And it is a oldie, but it is a goodie. And so how it came up was it was during the holidays, and I got together with some ladies, and they were just talking about the pressures of work and family and hosting during the holidays and all the things they were going to say no to. And I was like, well, maybe y'all should read the Shonda Rhimes book, The Year of Yes, because you can say yes to things and put boundaries around it and still be present and engaged versus feeling we were discussing the burden of feeling of saying no to things and how that made them feel around the holidays. And so I would encourage anyone who is at a point in their life to read that book. Again, oldie but goodie. I truly enjoyed it. And then the other thing I would say is just make time to give back and do some service work in your community. I volunteer a lot in the area where I live, and it is just a really intrinsically rewarding feeling. I don't want to sound like a do-gooder by any means. I definitely have my flaws, but I do find that when I'm able to take a Saturday or an afternoon off to give back to the community where I live, it does make me feel well. So I wouldn't say like give to a cause that I'm passionate about. I would say give to a cause that you're passionate about, whether it's donating your time or money, whatever you're able to give.
I love that. And yeah, it's like whatever works for you, do that. Let that be the thing that you want to share with the world. So I think it's an awesome way to put some good out in the world. Well, Chella, you are a delight and warm and fuzziness and just goodness and glow that I see all around. So I'm so glad we were connected. And I'm so delighted to have had you on 29 Days of Magic. Like, keep shining and doing good out in the world because, like, yes, girl.
Thank you for having me. This has been an awesome experience. And please keep sharing your magic. I love it. It's great.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, and that is our